Hello, this is Dave from e-portfix, and today we're going to talk about winterizing your bike. So it's December in Canada, snow's coming down, the temperatures are getting colder, but that doesn't mean you can't ride your bike anymore. In fact, winter's a great time to ride. What it does mean is that there are certain preparations you should take to make your bike safer and more capable to ride in these conditions. Let me show you. So this is my carbon road bike. I'm not going to winterize this bike. The snow, the salt, the abrasives, they all take its toll on a bike, and it will eventually ruin your bike. If you take good care of it, it's going to take much longer, and your components are going to last a bit longer, but this bike is too good to use in the snow, plus its configuration is not great for riding in the snow anyway. So I'm going to use my winter bike. So there's three things we're doing when we're winterizing the bike. We want to protect it from the snow, from the elements, from the grit. We want to lube it, make sure we have a good lube, something that's going to stay supple in the cold weather and repel the water and really give the most protection for those conditions. And three, we want to make accommodations for fenders, for lighting, position, all to make your bike safer and easier to ride in the winter. So when you're protecting your frame, I like to use something like a silicone spray. This is a great product here. Spray it onto a rag, wipe it on the frame, and polish it up a bit. And what that's going to do, that's going to keep all the grit, the snow and the salt from sticking to the frame. It's going to protect your paint. It's going to keep it from getting corroded. If you can get some also on the rear cassette. I've had times when it's really cold and slushy. The slush can get into the cassette and then start to build up, and then you can't shift gears anymore because it's just a solid block of ice. So if you have anything there that's going to be slippery, that's going to keep it from accumulating too much on there, that's great. It'll be much easier to clean your bike and maintain the bike once it's all protected initially before you go into the snow. If you don't have a silicone spray, you can also use a car wax, but you want to make sure that you spray it onto a rag and wipe it on the bike. You don't want to get any wax or silicone or anything slippery on your braking surfaces. Either if you have rim brakes or disc brakes, you really want to avoid getting anything in terms of a wax or a silicone on those, because as soon as it touches that, you're going to really have trouble getting your brakes to work well. You won't have any brakes and it'll be quite dangerous. For lubrication on your winter bike, it's going to be cold. You don't want something that's going to stiffen up and really make it hard to turn the pedals over, make it hard for the wheels to spin. You really notice it if you're using a standard grease. Once it gets really cold out, the bike's going to work really sluggish. So what I like to do is I clean out the bearings, open them up, clean them off, bit of degreaser, and then I re-grease them with a special low temperature grease. This Shell stuff is great. It's specially formulated for really cold temperatures. Stays thin at like -20. It really resists water washout well. So you can put a bit of extra grease in there, make sure it's well protected. It's going to keep your bearings rolling nicely and smooth at cold temperatures, well lubricated and well protected. You can also use a thin grease like a white lithium. That's going to stay supple at low temperatures. It'll wash out a bit easier with the water, so you might have to service it more often, but something like that's going to still keep your bike working well at cold temperatures. You want to do your hubs, your bottom bracket, and don't forget about your headset. Really important, the headset, especially the lower bearing, gets a lot of spray. You want to make sure you service that, get some good grease packed in there and protected. For the chain, definitely use a wet lube. I've tried a bunch of different lubes, and a wet lube really works great. I find the Finish Line cross-country wet lube works well. Keeps the rust off, keeps the chain moving, keeps it silent. But ideally, every time you come back in, when you get back, clean off your chain, re-lube it, and then it's ready for next time. You don't have water and salt sitting on the chain. So the best thing to do, clean your chain, run it backwards, drip lube on each link, run it through a little bit, let the oil work into the chain, wipe it off with a rag, and you're good to go. You also want to make sure that you grease all the bolts. Pull out the bolts, water bottle bolts holding your fenders, your seat clamp, your stem bolts. Pull them out, put a bit of anti-seize. You can use like a thread. Anti-seize is good, or you can just put a bit of grease on it, that's fine. Pull them out, grease them up, put them back in. With the salt and the snow and everything, those will seize. Don't forget about your seat post. Pull your seat post out, clean it, put grease, anti-seize, something, put it back in the frame. Anything that's not protected like that, that goes in dry, it's going to get water, it's going to get corrosion in there, and then it'll be stuck on when it comes to maintaining it. If you've put grease or anti-seize, everything is going to come apart really nicely, and you won't have any problems. For the winter, I like to run my seat a little bit lower. So there's a couple different accommodations for fit. You're wearing more clothes, you're not as flexible, you don't have as much dexterity, it's much slippery out. I run a lower seat height, makes it easier to pedal, gives me a lower center of gravity, a little bit more stable, and if I have to take my foot out and put it down, it's also easier. I run a bit shorter stem, keeps me a bit more upright, better visibility. It's good for slippery and dark winter riding, and also you're wearing more clothes, so it's a bit more comfortable if you're a bit more upright, and then your seat height is a little bit lower. I like to run some thicker bar tape. The handlebars do get cold in really cold weather, so having a bit of extra insulation there is nice. I run pretty simple Sora levers. You can anything lower end. Tends to have bigger paddles, bigger range of movement. I find that's easier to use something like that when you're wearing thick gloves or mittens or something. It's easier to control the bike, and it's much cheaper to replace in 2 or 3 seasons running through the winter, because something like that's going to get corroded. You want to lube it up, keep it protected, but the salt and the cold is really going to take its toll anyway. Another thing that's really important for winter riding, lights. Run a rear light, run a front light. Absolutely have your lights on. Cars, for the most part, do not expect you. The nights are much longer, it gets dark earlier, so you want to be visible. It's very, very important. Have lights, front and rear. You want to be seen. I love reflective sidewalls on tires. That's really good. You want to make sure you have reflective elements on your bike if you don't have reflective sidewalls, but definitely have lights, be visible, and stay safe. So those are the couple things that I do for my bike to make it ready for winter. Go ahead, try those things on your bike, leave any questions in the comments below, and thanks for watching.